Hello, my friends, and thank you for tuning in to Weird Mythic Podcast. I hope everybody has been having a great Saturday. I know I've had a great Saturday. The sun is out. Finally got to wear shorts today. The best, my favorite weather is finally here. And all like the summer fruits and veggies are out. I'm gonna start a garden. Me and my neighbor started a garden last year. Went and got us some babies today. They got some soil. So excited. I love this type of weather. And yeah, just been a good day out in the sun. So I hope everybody has enjoyed it. I hope everybody has had a good week and has a great weekend. So the Lori Vallow case has been going on for, I don't know, a little over a week now, right? I will admit I am a few days behind. I have been watching it on Law and Crime, and I have not listened to the entire audio of when her son is getting up on the stand. So I am a few days behind, but we all know that regardless of what they're trying to make sure she doesn't get any sort of death penalty or life or whatever, um, she's not going to get the fairest of trials. I'm sure everybody, after hearing what they've heard, even from her friend who is close with her in the cult, I mean, hearing her testimony, something's a little off, but it was definitely premeditated, I think, at this point. But again, I don't want to give out my whole, thing just yet. I am a few days behind that I'll catch up. The next episode I do is going to be like a cross between a UFO encrypted or like parallel universe type of crossover thing. So I'm going to catch up on the Lori Vallow case and then do that episode and put them together, and that'll be fun. So, besides all of that, let's get into today's episode because that's why we're all here, right? So, this is a recommendation from my mom. Thank you, Mom. We are going to be talking about the Rendlesham Forest incident in Suffolk, England. And this happened in December of 1980, December 26th, 1980. This is going to be the first episode based in England. And our story, as I said, starts on December 26th, 1980, which in England, and I also believe in Canada, is called Boxing Day. I had to look it up because I've heard of it, but I've never been that curious. And I'm like, okay, well, they said it in a couple of the articles. So what is Boxing Day? Pretty much from what I got out of it, it's like Black Friday. Like if you know what Black Friday is in America, that's kind of like Boxing Day, except Black Friday for us is after what? Thanksgiving? Yeah, whatever. I don't always I like the Cyber Monday one, or there's a local one that they do. It's like on a weekend. Anyways, let's go back to England, December 26th, 1980. Keep in mind that this is during the Cold War era and tensions are a bit high. And that night, on December 26th, 1980, at about 3 a.m., some airmen patrolling in the Rendlesham Forest, which is a military field that was and I still believe is occupied by the U.S. Air Force, they saw something a bit odd in the airfield. It was a beam of light in the Rendlesham Forest. The airmen took notice of this light beam and thought it could have been possibly a downed aircraft, so they went to investigate. Now, this is all according to those airmen. They were the first-hand witnesses, and this is like sergeants and colonels that came after, okay? So, it was reported that the light was extremely bright, and as the airman got closer to the light, they noticed that the farm animals in the area seemed to kind of go into a frenzy, and they continued going to that light. The airmen saw a glowing object with colored lights. None of them recognized the object, and they continued to get closer. The airmen got very close to the bright object and saw it fly very fast up and out towards the west. As the airmen got closer to the craft, their radios started to not work properly, and the light was so bright that it started to blind them. Sergeant Jim Penniston and Airman Burroughs were the two airmen who got the closest to the craft. Sergeant Penniston claims to have come into contact with a craft of unknown origin. He walked around the craft before it flew off, claiming that it was in the shape of a pyramid. Okay, 3 a.m. A group of airmen notice a bright light in the middle of their field. They get closer, their radios start to fuck up, the lights get brighter. One of them might have touched some sort of pyramid-shaped object with all these glowing lights, and then it flew up and took off towards the west. 2 names to remember is Penniston and Burroughs. So that was all about 3 a.m. At about 4 a.m., there were local police that came by. Somebody on base did call about a possible downed aircraft. But when the police got there, they didn't see anything of note and did not investigate any further. The local police have said that they believe there was no UFO in the airfield. I do have the official police report from that night in the show notes if you would like to check it out. So that same morning, on December 26, 1980, in Rendlesham Forest, the air base, once daylight hit and there was a little bit better visibility, the airmen who were originally out there, Penniston and Burroughs, along with a lieutenant colonel or colonel lieutenant, I don't know which goes which, but Halt, and some others went to investigate the area because of what Burroughs and Penniston and the other airmen had seen that early in the morning with all the bright lights. Halt was a man from the military of defense and always had a tape recorder for his investigations. Halt had also brought a radiation meter, you know, that click, 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 click thing when there's more higher radiation than normal. And yes, guess what? I do have those recordings from his investigation in the show notes. When Penniston, Burroughs, Halt, and a small team went back to where they had seen the big glowing object that morning before, they actually noticed that it was in a clearing. And you could distinctly see 3 imprints in the dirt that formed a triangle shape. The trees that were facing the clearing and the 3 imprints seemed to have burn marks and broken branches. But here's the cool trippy part, guys. Not only did the area have a higher radiation reading than what was on the other side of the clearing, and from away the 3 imprints that these military were like taking their notes, it was much higher than what was originally around them. They're sitting there like taking their notes, and a freaking UFO comes right above them as Halt is recording his findings. You hear it in his voice, just the curiosity and confusion. And he says things like, "No doubt about it, this is weird. There it is. I see it too." Yeah, got those recordings for you. Okay, so you might be asking yourself at this point, like, it's a recording. How has nobody, like, ever heard of this? Or how have I not heard of this before? Because this was new to me also. Well, thank you to the Freedom of Information Act in 1983, a memo was released to the U.S. public, a memo from a Lieutenant Colonel Halt. This is when the Rendlesham Forest incident got the nickname Britain's Roswell. That's right, guys. So, okay. Two different incidents with the bright object, UFO, coming into contact with the military. And not just it's British military and the US military. So these are 2 different countries. So what the hell happened after? And just putting it out there, one of the dudes says he's touched it. Okay, so what happened after they had everybody go out and do this investigation? Of course, the military of defense claims that even to today that the event had no threat to national security, so they never investigated it any further, and that was it. They had some initial interviews, but that was about it. There were a few articles on a forestry worker who was around during the second sighting with Halt, a man named Vince Thukettle, Vince, who claims that 2 suited men started bugging him for a couple days after the incident, believing that he knew something. Two suited men? Tell me that ain't the Men in Black. In 1997, a researcher, James Easton, he went and interviewed Burroughs again and a few others that were there on that morning of December 26, 1980. Burroughs will still claim that they followed this light for about 3 miles. They heard some weird noises and they could hear the farm animals going into, quote, a frenzy, unquote. He also claimed that Sergeant Penningston touched the object. There was an interview with a Colonel Ted Conrad from James Easton. Ted Conrad, a base commander, stated that, quote, 5 Air Force policemen spotted lights from what they thought was a small plane descending into the forest. 2 of the men tracked the object on foot and came upon a large tripod-mounted craft. It had no windows, but was studded with bright red and blue lights. Each time the men came within 50 yards of the ship, it levitated 6 feet in the air and backed away. They followed it for almost an hour through the woods until it took off at a phenomenal speed, unquote. That's one hell of a quote, guys. It will be in the show notes. June 2010, Colonel Charles Halt, yeah, our guy, signed an affidavit that stated he believes it was an extraterrestrial and that the UK and US have covered it up. Yeah, he has it on tape. We can fucking hear it. Why would he lie about it even that he signed? I don't know. What in the cover up is going on here, guys? What the flock is happening? I mean, it's on tape, like I said. Good people, no reason to lie about seeing a UFO. They're military men. They know the difference between a light or in a UFO and a craft that they know, and they would have said if they knew what it was. So it is a UFO. What was it and why didn't anyone investigate it? 2 countries just not investigating it. But I know what theories there are out there. So here's the theories on what it could be if it is not a UFO. Obviously a meteor, duh. They didn't see a strange craft with lights on it, guys. It was just a meteor. And the beam that they saw, just stars in the distance. So don't worry about that. It could definitely just be a hoax. There was a local policeman who claimed that he used the spotlights on his car to make it look like a beam came down from the sky. It was pretty much just fucking with people. Yeah, and those trained military men don't know the difference between cop car spotlights and a beam of light. Okay, right. Okay, whatever. The most believed theory that is out there is that the airmen saw the light from the Orford Lighthouse, which is about 5 miles to the west of Rendlesham Forest. But again, guys, these are airmen who have been patrolling and watching this place for who knows how long, and now they believe that this light from the lighthouse is a UFO? Come on, just tell me that makes sense to you. Whatever. So yeah, that is the Rendlesham Forest incident, Britain's Roswell. Guys, this was so much fun to look into. I have really good links down below. I highly recommend going to those and just tell me what you guys think. Was this a UFO? Is it the lighthouse? Maybe, just maybe, it was the military doing experiments with force fields. Yeah, didn't know about that one, huh? I definitely 100% believe that this happened after hearing the recordings, listening to the interviews, reading the interviews. I even have stuff about the police report. I have that in here, guys. Just, it seems like a UFO, but please tell me your thoughts on this. And don't forget to go to all of my social media, Weird Mythic Podcast at Twitter, Weird Mythic Podcast on Instagram, which also has our link tree to the website and the merch store, Weird Mythic Podcast on YouTube. And please send me what you think, or if you have any suggestions. Again, thank you, Mom, for this suggestion. If anybody else has something on UFOs, abductions, or I always want those cryptids, guys, bring them my way. Send that to weirdmythicpodcast@gmail.com. Thank you.